If I've learned anything from my Dogecoin holdings this year, it's an intense familiarity with descending numbers. But I can also put that to good use. So today we're talking about what to play over a 6-5-4. If you don't know what 6-5-4 is, basically, those are the numbers that denote a chord progression, okay? So we're going to do this in the key of F. Thus, a 6 chord would be D minor. The 5 chord would be C. The 4 chord, B flat. F, G, A, B flat, C, D. 6-5-4, okay? So I'm just going to loop this, and we're going to talk about some cool stuff that we can do over it to kind of maybe familiarize yourself with just what you do in an intense descending situation. So it'll sound like this. Okay, so that's going to be our loop. Now, before we start playing anything over it, you'll notice that I have an equal amount of bars on each loop, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can think of that as like 2 bars, maybe of each one. So I wanted to do that so they're symmetrical, so there's no extra importance to a particular chord. Basically, you have this, right? There's the D. The next section is C. And then the next section is B flat. But they're all in the key of F. Alright, so first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to spell out each of those chords with an arpeggio. Alright, now you can look at this as a way to solo over it or a way to accompany what we have going on. Those are kind of two different schools of thought, accompaniment versus soloing. But we're going to touch base on a little bit of each of these, right? So for the D minor part, we're going to spell out the chord. What that means is we're going to play the notes that are in a D minor chord, a D, an F, and an A, in an arpeggio. Okay, so here's the root note. 5th fret on the A string is D. Its minor third is 3 frets higher. There's the F in that D minor chord, and then an A. So we've got the 7th fret on the D string. 5A, 8A, 7D, okay? And then we're going to go down a string to get the next octave. Anytime you have a minor chord, you can find its root note, and then these are going to be the notes that spell that chord out. So we can do it super slow just over that. And we can hang that last note into the next chord. The nice thing about having chords that are all in the same key is any of these notes, any of these chord tones, notes that are in the chord, are going to sound good over any of them. I can just play the notes of a D minor chord over any of these chords. Simple version of doing that, but it definitely gives a different feel than if you follow the chords through the progression. The nice thing about a descending progression, like a 6-5-4, is the forms kind of chase each other in a repeatable way, I suppose. So we do the same thing. All we have to do is make one small adjustment. So for the C chord, a C, an E, and a G, we have that same shape, but instead of 3 frets, to make a minor third is 4 frets, make a major third, okay? Now, basically, whenever I play a C major arpeggio, I always like sliding in to the major third, like this. So pointer finger's on the root note, 3rd fret, and then my ring finger is gonna go from D to E, the 2nd to the major third, and that lines my pointer finger up with that 5th, right? 1, 3, 5, C, C, E, G. Now we do the same thing the next octave up, okay? So once we get to that 5th, straight down a string, just like with the D minor, there's going to be a root note again, and again, 4 frets higher, and now back, right? Because remember, when we did the D, we went straight down, but because that minor chord has a flat third, now it's offset for the end, okay? So I can chase the chords. I can do the same thing with the B flat. So I'm spelling out each chord as they go along. I can maybe jump like... Now the next thing I want to do is I want to highlight a specific target area, okay? That's going to be right here. The 10th fret on the G string. What's 10th fret on the G string? You can count 4, G, G sharp, blah, 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 blah. Or you can be like, all right, the octave G is 12th fret, G flat, F sharp, F, okay? So we said we were in the key of F. That's why this note has a super important vibe, even though we aren't playing an F major chord. Why is that? Well, D minor is a D and F and an A. C major, anytime you see a C major, you probably see an F right around it. They have a relationship though, even though F isn't a note in the C major chord. And then B flat also has an F in it. So it would resolve on F. But we're almost kind of getting a little mini resolve light, resolution light in that F note. We can just play that note. And again, it fits over any of those chords, right? That's because this is the key that we're in. Now, more importantly, the way that I learned this, the way a lot of people learn, is this is a note in the relative minors minor pentatonic shape. In this case, D minor is relative minor. So we can go 10, 13, 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 13, 10, 13. Or, if you want to be a true boss, the full relative minor scale, 10, 12, 13, 10, 12, 13, 10, 12, 14, 10, 12, 10, 11, 13, 10, 12, 13. Okay? If you want to learn more about this, check out my Patreon. I kind of spell out all this stuff in greater, slower detail. At least I think I do. But the nice thing about this position is there's so many cool things you can do. And ending on some of these target notes, like let's try to do something, whatever. Let's play around in that position. But we'll always try to end there. Okay, so again, very simple, but I can also take an F major chord and take that right there. If you want to kind of get a little extra sauce on it. Instead of just that single note. I think it kind of has a cool little vibe when you maybe add a dynamic there, make it a little more powerful just by getting a full F chord where it's just 10, 10, and 10. Right? So that's another thing we can do, just kind of mess around in this position. Again, I think it's cool playing those chord tones and thinking of chords within a lead thing, whether you're accompanying by getting just a lot of these like kind of cool like bends that are really kind of synonymous with just kind of minor scale licks and stuff like that. But the chord tones, I think, is really where a lot of the melody comes from. So even if you don't match them up all the time, it's great to learn different chord voicings, okay? So again, we played this D minor, this C major, this B flat major, but there's so many different ones. Like for the D minor, let's just do the 10th fret on the highest three strings. That'll be our D minor shape. And then for C major, let's do a D-shaped chord where your ring finger is the 13th fret of the B string, and then so 12 E, 13 B, 12 G. And then for the B flat, we can do a couple things. We can take the same shape and then just go 2 frets back right there, just kind of doing an alternate. So again, with the chords. Again, that might not vibe totally because it's the same guitar and the same pickup. Maybe I want to switch the pickup to do it differently. I'll go in the middle position. Maybe I want to pick the notes out. Kind of like a combination of a few different things. So again, this is a descending line, but it doesn't have to be descending as far as the pitch of the notes that you choose. What you could do is maybe you could start in the same area as the background track D minor, and then maybe for the C major, maybe we could go higher, right? Maybe we could go from down here, maybe like a lower sound, to we could do that tried and true triad up here, and then end up on an actual B flat, which is right here, the 15th fret. That's kind of like the octave, right? So again, as one line is descending, the other one could be ascending. Again, that's another way to kind of accompany something without playing the exact same thing. I'm a huge fan of double stops, right? So, especially double stops on the neck position is like, it's just kind of like a great sound around that same position, right? So let's do some double stops that are all kind of built around getting this F note in there. And again, this all comes from kind of like knowing like your modes and stuff. For example, C's mode would be C mixolydian, right? B flat's mode would be B Lydian. Another thing that a lot of people think would sound good is just to play each chord's note mode relative to where you're at, right? Like D. To me, when I can hear people doing that, and I see, I probably used to do that a lot myself, where it's like, all right, this chord is changing, I have to find that chord's mode, and I can definitely hear that whatever is being played is just kind of like sticking and kind of like being forced into a different position. That's why I think it sounds kind of cool to, even if you're thinking that way, to kind of let certain positions kind of linger over a certain type thing, right? So maybe I'm just going to use D minor's position in my mind's eye where I am at the fretboard, and then maybe I'll try to like work that somehow into like the B flat Lydian mode, I guess, like if I just think of these notes, right? So this would be 6, 8, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8. Double step it like this. So maybe for D minor, I'm just going to stay in this spot, and then eventually I'm going to work my way there for the B flat. It's not about always switching around. It's kind of having an idea of what you want to do. And that's why it's not just about soloing what to play over 6/5/4. It's about how do you want to accompany that type of thing. And I think that's kind of important to think about, right? Because You know, when you see a D minor and a C and a B flat or any key, this works in absolutely any key. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, as long as it's a 6, 5, 4, you'll start to hear these patterns kind of moving around a little bit. It eventually does kind of coalesce into a thing where, all right, 6, 5, 4 in the key of F. You know, maybe you start off thinking just D minor pentatonic. You know, maybe you can, there's a million things you can do in just that one spot. But what I think of is I think of like a combination of all these things. And depending on what I'm trying to do, whether I'm trying to accompany, whether I'm trying to like bring a melody out somewhere up in a different register of the instrument of the chords being played. Again, there's just different ways of thinking about different problem solving, I guess, if you want to look at it. Or just get the shapes under your fingers and just feel it out. You know what I mean? There's no one way to do it, but I do think that having a more complete understanding of the fretboard will allow you to maybe get away from some of that, like, that kind of stuff that very clearly sounds like you're chasing scales, rather kind of just having one fluid melodic idea over a piece. So hopefully that was helpful to some people out there. So if you have any questions, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. Talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.